Paramania Radio. Hosted by forensic psychologist Sarah Soderlin and paranormal investigator David Erickson. State of Mind is a show that features mentalism, mystery, and modern psychology with twists of cognitive process and challenges of the mind. News, discoveries, banter, and guests that talk all things fascinating. Join them every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, only on paramaniaradio.com. Hey guys, I got the perfect song for the show. What do you think about this?
What the hell is this?
Dude, this is not the boring psychic.
Oh, okay. How about this instead?
Take out the papers and the trash. This isn't it. Or you don't get no spending cash.
No. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah!
The party is live every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, with a twist of metal. Melissa Bruce is the heavy metal psychic.
Only on Paramania Radio. Be there.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Paramania, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
You are listening to Paramania Radio.
You're listening to the Parasearch UK radio show with your hosts Kerry Greenaway and Jay Lynch, right here on Paramania Radio.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Parasearch UK radio show. I am part of the problem, and with my host, Kerry Greenaway, who is part of the solution. Hi, Kerry, how are you tonight?
I'm fine, thank you. I wouldn't say I was a solution, but, I'll go with that.
Honey, you know me. Do you think I'm ever going to be the part of the solution? Moving on.
No, you're the one that causes the trouble. Anyway, how are we tonight? We all good?
Absolutely. You got a wonderful guest with us tonight from your side of the pond again, don't you?
I do. I have the lovely Graham Smith with us tonight. Good evening, Graham.
Hello. Good evening, guys. How are you?
Howdy. Well, good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me on.
So, now, last week, we spoke to Ashley Nibb, didn't we? And he blew your mind a little bit, Jay.
Yes. He made me look at things in a different perspective. I'll give you that.
So I thought I'd bring another one on that will do just the same sort of thing.
Do you like showing people on air just how goofy I really am?
No. I just like showing how good the UK people really are.
Oh, and we're going to have this battle again.
No, we're not going there. We're not going there. I retract that statement completely. Anyway, Graham, good evening. Right, first of all, introduce yourself and tell Jay and our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I've been interested in the paranormal now for most of my life. I'd say that I was around sort of 10 and 11 when I kind of became fairly interested in the topic when I watched a program which was based around the Enfield poltergeist case back in the 70s. And since then, I've kind of always read books on the paranormal, on various different phenomena. But it wasn't until sort of my mid-20s when I started watching ghost hunters taps and on YouTube, and kind of liked their approach of how they investigated, and it kind of intrigued me to the point where I decided that I'd start to purchase my own pieces of equipment. So from that point, I got a few bits and pieces, got a couple of friends together, and we went and investigated an abandoned haunted location, which one of my friends used to run this hotel. He was the manager there, but they had to close down due to health and safety reasons. So still, fortunately, he was still kind of managing the property. So he was able to get in for a couple of hours. And that was my first experience of investigating the paranormal. And, for the couple of hours I was there, we experienced some interesting things. So that kind of encouraged me to move forward. And with another friend, we kind of decided to set up our own sort of part-time paranormal events company. So we started that around 2010. So we were fortunate enough to sort of make a good contact with a director who was running this discovery centre, which is local to us. And this discovery centre was based on this property of called Bramble Abbey. And this was an old sort of priory that dates back to around 1,000 years. And they've got this farmhouse building, which is 3 stories. And he let us use the building for free to kind of trial our event, as you would like to say. So we invited various people who we knew to kind of test out, how we're going to run the events, etc. And from that point, that was where my journey started.
And then you went on and you kind of ended up going the more tech route, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've always been down that route anyway. That was what kind of inspired me into it. I liked all the gadgets that ghost hunters were using. So that was what I wanted to do. That's how I basically based my methods around, was what I was viewing on TV to start with. So I was purchasing the same equipment, using it the same way they were doing, and obviously preaching a lot of the jargon that he spouted out in the programs as well. We were in the practice that we were kind of delivering at the time. But I'd say we probably did the events for a good 18 months. But I think I got to a point where I witnessed some interesting things, but I was never the one really with the opportunity to kind of investigate it myself, because I was always there more mainly to entertain, and I kind of felt that running the events was hindering me from progressing as an investigator. So I made the decision to kind of end running events with my friend, and because I wanted to kind of do it for myself. So what I did was I broke away from the company, and I started up my own paranormal society, which is called RSVP UK, which stands for Research Society to Verify the Paranormal United Kingdom. Unfortunately, this society doesn't run anymore because I've gone down a different path since then. But I mean, that was really the starting point for me in my journey into sort of investigating and researching the paranormal. So from that, I set up the society. I got another friend of mine who actually is my best friend to get involved as well, and got one or two other people that I knew that are interested in the paranormal to be involved too. So we started off with a team of 4, and was able to conduct a paranormal investigation at someone's property for our first one. So basically what I decided to do was, because whenever I was on investigations doing with the business, things were happening, but I never kind of recorded anything or had any sort of information gathered, to kind of sort of back up any claims or anything, or kind of understand, the experiences that we had into more detail. So I decided that I was going to develop my own kind of case file document, and it was basically just kind of designed to be kind of a simple document that I could complete on the evening, just scribble a couple of notes on it, and then that would be done. So I put this document together, and we trialed it on our first investigation, and it was okay. It didn't kind of work out the way I was hoping it was going to. But anyway, we progressed, we expanded our operation, and we managed to get into a location or get interest from a location which I've been wanting to do for a long time, which is a local theatre where I live called the Madcat Theatre. So I managed to arrange a meeting with the director there at the time, who we had a chat about what we do and how we go about conducting our investigations. He seemed kind of interested, but I think he was still a bit sceptical on whether or not he would be willing to let us into the building for the evening to conduct this investigation. So how I sold it to him was I went down the case file route, and I said, look, we have this case file, we document everything we do. So what I'll do for you is, before we start the investigation, I'll go away, I'll put together a plan of action, how we're going to conduct the investigation, so you can see exactly what we're going to do from start to finish. So that kind of sold it to him. So he agreed on that basis. So I went away, got the case file template, and just went to town on it, really. So I thought, well, I want to do a good job for this guy. He's kind of trusting us to be in there and do the job. So I really put a lot of thought and detail into the case file. So what happened was, once I completed it, I presented it to him, and from that point, he was more than happy for us to go in to investigate the building, to the point where he was happy just to leave us on our own, and he left it, and for us just to be the sole people within the building, which was fantastic. So we did the investigation, done all the evidence review afterwards. We came up with some slightly interesting EVPs, but that was about it. We presented it to him, but also once again, we did the review section in the case file, kind of put in all the information, all the kind of sort of interesting sort of witness accounts that could relate to various sounds and other things that kind of happened during the night, once again, he was very grateful for the case file that we were able to produce for him, and I think that was the start of the case file for myself, really, and how I kind of developed from that point.
Okay, so going back to the case file that you made up, what sort of things did you include in that?
Well, I mean, I don't. I'm including pretty much the things that people generally include in a case file. So, for example, it was probably split into four sections as such. So there would be, first of all, the kind of interview section, where I'd interview the client. I'd have various bits of information while I'd be asking. It's I'm not. It's not like I've designed it in the sense that I've solely come up with the ideas for it. I'm basing it on what other people were doing, and just basically putting it into my own template. So I'd be asking, questions about the paranormal accounts, who's witnessed it, what time, day it's witnessed, etc. What type of phenomena, that sort of stuff. Questions about the property itself. Obviously, had a little research category in there, so we could do some background research, and obviously, there was sections about clients' expectations, because what we wanted to make sure was that we were being brought in to do the job that they're expecting us to do. So, for example, if they were asking us to come in to do a house clearing or something like that, then that wouldn't really be what we were about. So, I wouldn't be obviously taking on that investigation. So I thought I had that section right at the end. So moving on, so the section 2 was basically kind of like the preparation side. So preparing for the investigation. So what I'll do is, with the information I've gathered, I've put together kind of aims and objectives for the investigation. So what we were trying to achieve throughout that investigation, and then sort of work out what methods we were going to use during the investigation, what equipment and how we're going to use it, also down to the point where we're going to situate all the equipment, and also put together like floor plans to the property. So what we could do was, so when we got into the property, we literally would know exactly where we were going from the moment we got in, so it would really reduce the amount of time we were going to take to set up which we constantly were improving on it time and time again with that. So that was kind of the preparation part of the case file. Then the third section was literally just the information that we were gathering, so we'd take various sheets from the case file on the investigation as well, which we'd use to document. So any things that occur on the investigation, whether we've witnessed some activity that we cannot explain, or we've witnessed activity that we've kind of investigated and been able to find logical explanations for. And obviously timeline all of this information as well. Also, what we'd be doing as well was we'd be tracking investigator movements around the property, making sure that we know, what times they're in certain parts of the location, who was there, and obviously tracking everyone's movement. So then, once again, when it came to doing evidence review and obviously referring back to accounts of what people witnessed, it can all be added into the timeline, so we could be very clear on where people were and whether or not there would be potential for investigator contamination, that sort of stuff. So after that, it would be the review section of the case file, where we'd look at every aspect of what we've conducted. So we'd obviously look at how we've gone about trying to find the logical reasons for things, if we've come up with anything that we think could be a logical explanation. Also looking at contamination factors within the building, which obviously does link to the natural causes, but obviously looking at how so for example, with the acoustics of the property are very evident that various noises travel around a variety of areas of that property. We want to make sure that that's documented, so that's something to be considered for future investigations, or if to obviously review with or reveal to the client and let them make them aware, or to be sort of conscious of that fact, etc. Would also obviously go on. Yep.
So we have a few questions at this point.
Yep, no problems.
So first, a question came in from a lovely lady called Kaz Rooney.
Yep.
What do you do if something happens if you need to change the plans you made? It's the paranormal, so it doesn't always work the way you envisage it or want it to.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about anything you do, isn't it, in life, is that you still got to be versatile and be able to sort of adapt to any situation. So I think for myself and the way we operated, it was always good to kind of go in with a plan. Yeah, we never really always stuck to it, but I feel that if you have a plan to start with, you're already kind of geared up for what you're going in to do anyway. So I'm not saying that we're going to stick to that plan solely. The plan was not kind of structured in the sense of it was going to be all timed to sort of like, we're going to have 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and then we're going to move on. We obviously would adapt it, but I mean, the plan would be, this is what we're going in to do. This is how we're going to be setting up our equipment. We'll start off doing it this way and continue if nothing's occurring. But if things are occurring and we need to change the plan to obviously, say for example, the activities occurring in a particular part of the building, and maybe we'll probably focus more attention there than anywhere else in that property. Like it is the paranormal. It does, it is very spontaneous. When things happen and stuff like that. So, we're not rigid in that sense.
Okay. Second question was, in accordance with the data you have collected over the years, have you found more similarities or differences between cases? That was from Max. Hi, Max.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think every single location I've gone to, they're all different. Everything's, completely different. And there's no kind of like consistent pattern from what I've kind of gathered from my investigations, which I think, when I reflect on it over the years, maybe there isn't any real consistent pattern, because I think if there was, then, I think we'd be further down the line with the paranormal than we are today. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of made me feel more that maybe that the pattern exists, depending on the biological sort of scenario wherever you are. So if you're in one location, you're going to maybe experience certain type of environmental phenomena in one location than you would do in another location. So that's really where the data, gathering the information and the data is vital, because maybe we can build that bigger picture that it's not necessarily that, there's going to be consistencies across the board, but there may be consistencies from one particular location but completely different to another, and building that bigger picture. But then maybe from all these separate different K files, there may be one slight tiny consistency across the board. I haven't found that yet, but this is why we do it. Get all the information, get all the data, because you're going to need a shed load of it in order to kind of understand the field. And I feel for myself personally, doing what I've done has developed me as an investigator, because it's also changed my perception around what I believed in when I first started in the field. I was very much a believer in ghosts and spirits of the dead, but that's not how I perceive it to be now, because from what I've observed over the years, I can't say that I feel that way about it anymore, and I feel that there's some other form of explanation for the things that I'm witnessing. Whether or not they have a sort of scientific explanation which consists within our four-dimensional reality is another thing, but there is something happening where I'm still but I'm not unable to kind of define a particular pattern yet. But from what I've been able to gather so far, it's progressed me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course it does. Now, your friend Ashley is in the chat room, and he has asked, where would Graham like the paranormal field to head in the future, and how does he see it getting there?
Well, where I'd like the paranormal field to go, I think me and Ash have many chats around this topic, and I think from my observations of other teams and a lot of the things that I witness on Facebook and stuff, is that the general investigation team, we're still fairly stuck in conducting their investigations based on using video, audio equipment, etc., and kind of going down the similar pathway that we many teams and have been going down for years. And though it can produce some interesting evidence, we still don't know what this evidence means really. So, for example, when an EVP, what is that? What where's it coming from? There's lots of different theories and around what EVPs are, etc. But we still don't understand what they are. And what me and Ash refer to them as is that when people are conducting paranormal investigations, all they're kind of gathering evidence of is the effect of some other form of mechanics. So all they're seeing is the effect of what's occurring, rather than investigating what the actual cause is. And another thing is that how I perceive the paranormal field as such is that from a very early age, we are brought up to believe, we read stories around ghosts, spirits of dead people and such, and that's always on all the programs that you see, all the books that you read. That's what we're made to believe, that anything that's unexplainable, that we can't understand, well, that's the reason. That's what it is. So automatically, when we're witnessing something, some form of paranormal phenomena, we'll automatically jump into that conclusion. But what I'm starting to think of, hang on a minute, imagine if I didn't know what ghosts or spirits and of dead people were. If I was to witness this type of phenomena, I probably wouldn't think of it in that way. I think obviously it was odd because it's something I've not witnessed before, but I'd probably be more interested than scared around the phenomena. And it kind of baffles me to think that for many years that's what I've associated it with, because having been in the field, I no longer feel that way about it.
Mm. So when you think about your viewpoint on the paranormal now, do you see yourself as mostly skeptical?
I wouldn't say skeptical in the sense, because I've had one. There's only really one experience I've had which has completely blown my mind in the sense I have no explanation for, and for me it could have only have been someone, you know. I'll explain the scenario so you can kind of understand what I'm talking about. So when I first kind of started out, referring back to this location called Bradwell Abbey, there was a situation where it was just myself and another team member that was in the building, and we had like a CCTV system set up around the location, and fortunately the cameras were set up in all the places of the building where you would see someone coming in from any point where they could access the building.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time it was around midnight, and the other team members had gone off to sort of investigate the grounds. So we kind of counted how many people had left the building and locked them out, and just told them that we was going to do our own little investigation inside. So while we was conducting like an EVP session, we heard this kind of sort of banging noise at the far end of the house, with the building, and having investigated it several times before and nothing ever happened, I found it quite interesting, but I kind of put it to a side for, you know, it could be anything. I'm not going to kind of make a big deal of that, so I just kind of left it and continued doing what we were doing. So anyway, another 5 minutes went past, nothing happened, and then all of a sudden we were on the ground floor. On the first floor at the far end of the house, we started hearing these footsteps, and they got heavier and they got faster, and they were coming towards us, and it got to the point where it was that heavy, the footsteps were that heavy, you could feel the vibration under your feet. It was, and for me personally, I what I should have done was gone and immediately run upstairs and investigated. That's what I should have done. But because I was so shocked at the situation, because I wasn't expecting it, I kind of froze and I was in shock about it. So it took me a good 4 or 5 minutes to kind of get my composure back. Oh, and my colleague as well, you know, we both had that same sort of shock feeling, you know, so it took us a few minutes in order for us to be able to kind of compose ourselves again and then go and investigate. You know, we searched the property and there was nothing there, and you know, even to this day I still review that same bit of footage, but I can't find, you know, any kind of logical explanation for it. So that is the experience that keeps me in the field, because, you know, there's nothing that I can kind of logically find that would create that noise other than someone. And I know it wasn't someone. But am I prepared to say, because I can't explain it, I don't have a logical explanation, am I prepared to say that that was a spirit of a dead person? No, because I haven't witnessed enough or gathered enough evidence via video or audio to say that's the case. So all I classify it as it's paranormal phenomena I have no explanation around, you know. So what I aim to do is really find the mechanics behind that. Why has that occurred? What's made that occur? So that's where I kind of think my sort of passion around kind of understanding environmental phenomena, you know, how things affect the environment, has kind of spurred from that experience.
Mm-hmm. Jay, very quiet.
Yeah, I'm listening because I'm also reading and keeping up the chat room and stuff, because Dee in the chat room said, "What does Graham think a ghost is?" And I was looking at your Facebook page, kind of seeing your explanation there, that you just answered that on the 10th on there. And yes, I've been putting your link for a Facebook page in there, where you said you really don't know what the phenomenon is, and why do people always want to jump to that speculation.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
Yeah. No. You continue.
Well, I'm saying that's part of my thing now, is that I'm getting in a lot of trouble with a lot of my peers over here on this side that everybody's like, well, I got this evidence. I'm like, you can't say that it's evidence. Nothing that we're doing is even proven to a theory level, in my opinion. You can't prove that EVP is an EVP. You can't prove what created it. You know what we've accepted it to be, what the accepted standard is, but you can't prove any of this yet. Not a bit of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, that's where I'm at the moment, is where I've kind of moved the case file document. It's not necessarily to preach the fact that, you know, what I do is what everyone should be doing. How I've kind of expanded and what I started doing with our RSVP UK is encouraging more people to document their paranormal investigations and thoroughly document it, because it's the data and the information gathering which is important for us all. So as much information and data we can gather as part of our investigations, and we can share this information and data, it's only going to benefit us in the long run, because you know as a collective we might be able to find any patterns or any circumstances that maybe would be consistent, that we can kind of formulate other investigation methods or other kind of scientific research around in order to find or understand the mechanics behind the phenomena we're experiencing. You know, I don't preach to say that, you know, how I perceive the paranormal is the right way to perceive it, but that's how I perceive it. And, you know, we could get down to the bottom of what paranormal phenomena is, and it could well be that the final outcome is that it is the spirit of, you know, dead people, you know. And
I agree.
You know, that are coming to, you know. So I wouldn't be like, oh, you know, oh no, and just not, you know, be to the point where I wouldn't accept it. I'm happy to accept any explanation or any kind of outcome for what it is, you know, because that's the common aim we're all trying to achieve, is, you know, finding the answers to what paranormal phenomena is. And, you know, if someone else kind of works out that answer, credit to him. Bang on.
Absolutely.
I'd want to meet with them and have a chat with them about it.
Absolutely.
You know? So
I agree with you, though, on the whole data collection, collecting data, get the data. But my biggest thing is that most of our equipment nowadays is not geared toward getting data. I mean, most of them, we get like the K2 meters. We went up to the millimeter, which you can actually read off and get a reading and calculate it and stuff and log it down and see the fluctuations and see a pattern arising or not arising. Then we went back to REM pod, where we went back to beepy, flashy, and not something that's actually you can actually take readings off of. And to me, that's our biggest shortcomings with this field right now, where we keep saying we're making progress. We wanted to get this progress, but we're not doing anything to absolutely log the data. And a lot of people aren't going to, because it is a lot of damn work to log that data.
Absolutely. And I agree. I think one of the things is that I suppose when you go down that route of gathering the data rather than kind of doing the paranormal investigation, it could be a bit of a buzzkill, because most people go into paranormal investigation for the excitement factor of, you know, witnessing the activity. And
I
you
agree.
know, where it is very exciting, it, you know, once again, all you're experiencing is the effect of the mechanics, how I perceive it, you know, the effects of, and not the cause. And my main interest, or what drives me, is to find the cause. So where I want to obviously witness the phenomena, I want to witness it in the sense that I want to be able to gather the information around it, what's happening when it's occurring. So this is once again how the case file was kind of developed to me as an investigator. I got to the point where you know, I was using the K2 meters and you know, other various different meters like the temperature gauge, you know, and all that sort of stuff. And you know, not really finding it at all useful in the sense of, you know, effective sort of information gathering as an information gathering tool. So I was fortunate enough to have a friend at the time who was a software engineer, who also kind of dabbled in electronics. So I spoke to him and I said, look, you know, I've got so much money. I said, could you build me a data logger? Because I want to kind of start documenting the environmental factors that are, you know, what are occurring when, you know, this phenomena occurs in the property. So he was happy to do so. He went away and he built he built this customized data logger for me, which obviously I still use to this day, and it's a fantastic bit of kit, really. So what I asked him to do was, could he make it where we could monitor temperature, humidity, air pressure, electromagnetic field, and also we incorporated magnetic field as well. So he did that, designed the software for it, like a dashboard where it could be monitored on a laptop or on a mobile phone. He made it wireless as well, so we had like a sort of wireless network for it. So basically what we could do is situate this data logger in any building, any room within a property. We could wirelessly sort of observe it in another part of the location through the mobile phone or laptop, where you would see it in like a sort of graph form as it was occurring. So what happened was the data logger was programmed to take environmental readings every sort of 5 or 10 seconds, and you could see this occur from watching the dashboard. And then what we'd be able to do is at the end of the investigation, we could retrieve like an Excel document with all the data readings in the spreadsheet from the evening, so you could kind of sort of analyze the readings you were getting. But the other function that it had within the data logger was a sort of note-taking function. So, for example, if we was in one of the rooms on a location, we observed activity, and it was activity that occurred where the data logger was, we could type in a sort of entry log to say witnessed, say like a disembodied voice, in this room at this time. Well, we didn't have to necessarily record time, just we need to record a description of what we witnessed, enter it, and what happened was, on the graphs that were forming on all the data capturing, this note would then appear on the timeline with the graph. And what we found interesting on several investigations that we had done at the property that I was talking to about earlier on, which is Bradwell Abbey, was we would get major anomalies within the magnetic field during periods of paranormal phenomena occurring. We're talking some really serious sort of fluctuations. And that happened on a couple of occasions there. But we, once again, what we're always looking into is, whether or not that is caused by the phenomenon, or is there some other logical explanation. So we were kind of trialing where to see whether or not it was the device itself that was maybe malfunctioning. But we never kind of got down to any conclusion with that, really, on that side of things. But we always found that it was not necessarily the electromagnetic field, but the magnetic field that was more affected by the phenomena that was occurring.
Silence.
No, I've heard about the data logger before. Now, David has just messaged me and he said he'll take 10 of those data loggers. So you've already sold 10 of those. So I suggest you get marketing with that, Graham. Now, this magnetic fluctuation that you came across ties in with a theory that you've been reading quite recently, isn't it?
Not so much the magnetic field. I mean, it's not. I think in the US they're probably well aware of who I'm kind of interested in and find their work intriguing is Thomas Fosco. I mean, are you aware of him, Jay?
No, I'm not off the top of my head. I'm so thrown back with what you said earlier. My mind's not catching up to where you're at now. So give me a moment.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to speak to the guy and interview him on a radio show that me and my friend Ashley were, which we used to run, sort of earlier on in the year. That was around his theory, which is called supergeometry, which it's based on 30 years of research, where he's researched all different types of physics and other bits and pieces, and it's kind of drawn a conclusion from discussions he's had with physicists and from his research to what the overall theory of everything is, how he perceives it. And it all comes down to, additional to our four-dimensional universe is that there's this other fifth dimension, which he calls is the superphysical universe. And in this superphysical universe, it isn't bound by our four-dimensional laws. So this is where he kind of it's kind of hard to explain, but this is where all the information that makes up our universe exists. And this information can come in and out of our four-dimensional universe at any time. And rather than it being all solely based around, which a lot of people focus a lot of attention on, the electromagnetic field, his theory is based around gravity. Because obviously, a lot of physicists always refer to, with gravity around, that dark matter exists and dark energy exists and that sort of stuff. But actually, there's no sort of scientific proof that dark matter exists, and they need dark matter to exist in order for their model of gravity to work. And so what he says is that gravity, in order for this information to present within our four-dimensional universe, that a gravitational field bubble needs to present in order to allow this information to come through into our universe and present as physical mass. So what I'm looking at, so how I perceive it is from his research is that when these gravitational field bubbles occur, that you are going to experience other type of environmental phenomena that is the effect of this mechanics, which obviously would be then, things like, changes in electromagnetic field, maybe changes within, the barometric pressure and temperature, that sort of thing would be affected. So I'm not saying that's what it is, and everyone needs to be following that pathway, but his work and reading his book and speaking to him, as far as I've, from what I've observed and what I've kind of come across so far in the industry, is his theory is the best explanation that I've come across that explains every type of phenomena we witness when we investigate the paranormal. And that's why I kind of focus a lot of my research around that. Whether I'm right or he's right is another matter. But at least I've got something to base my work around, which I can focus attention in a certain area. I could be going down the completely wrong road, but at least I'm giving it a try. I'm trying something different. And that's what I like to encourage as well, is encourage other people in the field to do something different than the norm, that what they're doing now.
So how does that take into the psychological effect in the field?
I don't know.
Okay.
You on about the sort of the collective consciousness sort of type of thing you were actually was talking about?
Well, a little bit, but there is, yeah, I suppose I am really, yeah.
From my discussion, from my conversations with Thomas Fusco, how he perceives it is that obviously our brains are made of are physical, as he refers to it as physical. So everything, all our thoughts and our conscious must be physical. So what he's saying is that there needs to be more research or more unified research within different elements of the scientific community to work towards one common goal. So what he's saying is that, with the brain, you've got neurological scientists, and then you've got, your physicists who work on other bits and pieces. And what he's saying is that the two won't work together, but really they should do, because the brain is physical. So that would require physics in order to kind of help investigate, how it works, and our consciousness and stuff like that. So I suppose I don't really focus too much on that element. I must say I'm more about understanding the environmental changes that occur when this sort of gravitational field bubbles occur So I'm only at that stage at the moment. Maybe when I've investigated or kind of researched that element and kind of come to my conclusion and that, I can move on to that. I know Ash is more into that side of the field than I am, but you know, I'm happy with that because he can work on that, and then I can work on my bit, and then we can come together and sort of share our, you know, our findings, and we might be able to meet in the middle and actually come up with a good, you know, a good conclusion to it.
Does that make sense? Yeah, it does. Ash has actually just said perhaps gravimetric waves cause paranormal activity at the point where waves collide and change the realms of normality. This generates environmental changes and access to information outside the norm. That's what Ashley says in the chat room. So possibly there is a link there between, you know, like the physical and the other side. Psychological. Yeah. Sorry, I had to search for the word there.
Well, I mean, once again, talking to Thomas, you know, there's no way, you know, within our four-dimensional universe that we have that current capability to kind of understand or measure what's happening in this fifth dimension, because you know we're designed to you know, everything is defined by space and time, whereas them laws don't apply within that fifth dimension. So all we can do is kind of understand it from, you know, what we observe within our universe. And obviously it is, so that his theory, once again, going back, is relating to, you know, gravitational changes on basically the, you know, these formations of the gravitational field bubbles. So that is the way we can understand whether or not, you know, his theory around that maybe exists, if we can document the changes in gravitational force during manifestation of paranormal phenomena. It's just whether or not, you know, from a sort of hobbyist type of perspective that, you know, I classify myself, because I'm not, you know, a sort of scientist who has, you know, copious amounts of money on sophisticated equipment, you know, to document slight changes. But, you know, I can do what I can and, you know, invest money in what I can invest in order to see whether or not I can document that. So I'm working on something at the moment. I'm not going to talk too much about that today. There is something that I'm working on, a new project to kind of work along that theory. But I'll talk about that another time once I've got that up and running.
Okay. So going back to today's investigation techniques that we use in the field, what do you feel is the best new piece of equipment, or isn't there, that is actually out on the market? Because it's very difficult, isn't it?
My personal opinion is I don't see any use from my perspective anything that's on the market at the moment. If I'm perfectly honest, I feel that there's a lot of gimmicky sort of stuff coming through, you know, which, you know, seems to attract, you know, a lot of people within the field to, you know, so for example, you know, these like teddy bears that have lights and, you know, have like, you know, sort of EMF like detectors and things like that in them. I mean, I don't focus too much time on it, but I know it's intrigued people, and people obviously like that, you know, that technology, so they buy it and stuff like that. But I haven't, from my perspective, I haven't come across anything that I would probably feel I'd want to purchase, which is kind of specialised for the paranormal field. If what I would be looking, if I was being honest, the things that I would want to be purchasing are things like, you know, scientific equipment. So, for example, you know, spectrum analyzers. Like a spectrum analyzer, obviously to detect the different frequencies within the light spectrum. You know, because obviously, you know, frequency and amplitude is obviously plays a big part. And once again, so when we're going around with our EMF detectors, you know, we're only detecting, we obviously, you know, the devices are detecting various frequencies, but we don't know what these frequencies are. So, for example, K2 meters, everyone knows that there's many different things that affect them, but people still stand by them as a good, you know, reliable source of communication with other entities and things like that. But, you know, how can you conclude that that's what it is when you don't know what it is you're detecting? because we are bombarded with so many different frequencies, on a daily basis everywhere. We're surrounded by it. So what, I would be wanting to know what frequencies I'm picking up. So I want to have these spectrum analyzers so I can understand what it is these devices are detecting. But the problem with that is that comes at a greater cost. You're looking at thousands of pounds to invest in this sort of technology. So once again, if you want to kind of really progress and go down the scientific route, you've got to go and educate yourself, get yourself qualification in that expertise, the field of expertise, in order to be able to come anywhere close to even, sort of being able to have access to that type of equipment, unless you're fortunate enough to probably win the lottery and buy it for yourself and learn how to use it. But I can't see that happening anytime soon. So, I'm stuck with the resources I have available. But that, that's what that's how I operate. I look at, what I can do with what I've got and hope that there'll be opportunities in the future to kind of use various technology in order to kind of understand more the science around what it is we're detecting with the common devices that we are using in the paranormal field at this moment in time.
Jay?
Yes, ma'am.
How's your brain doing? Is it keeping up?
It's doing fine. It's just I was looking up this Thomas Fusco and stuff a little bit, and I was looking at some of the things, and some things we're talking about. And to me, I think some of these things are absolutely great once we get to that level. I'm still on the very basic level that we haven't proven paranormal phenomena, period, yet, let alone what's causing it or what could be side effects of it. Or we still haven't got the very basics done yet. And I think there's a lot of people putting a lot of time and effort and big ideas and theories into what it could be on the upper end of it when we haven't even got the basics to prove that that's what's causing it. You know what I mean? I think I'm at the different end of it. I'm way at the bottom of it. So you're up here at the top, and I'm down at the bottom going, man, I can't even figure it out this down here, so you lose me up here. Big time. So I think... everybody's like, it's a ghost. Well, prove that it's a ghost. I got an EVP. Yeah. Prove that you got an EVP. You can't even... Electronic voice phenomenon. In my basic understanding, the word voice, if you look it up, it says, that you have to have like vocal cords and stuff to create a voice. So it doesn't have vocal cords. It doesn't have physical being. So that's not an actual voice. So what is causing those words? Well, we've been scanning radio frequencies. Oh, well, so is it really a voice phenomenon, or is it just some kind of glitch with it you're hearing in the sub-sounds of the radio network? And it's nothing.
Going back to the EV, but one of the other things is that obviously it's lots of things that can be based on perception. So, for example, a lot of people refer to that when they get EVPs, they get EVP of something that saying something that's familiar to them or makes sense to them, and they'll say, "I've got myself an intelligent response." So we're having communication with an intelligent entity. So people then will say, "Oh yeah, we're having this we're having a conversation with this entity throughout the And I say to them, what makes you think that this is intelligent that you're referring to? Why do you see it as as you're having a conversation or effective communication with them? Because all you're getting is one word answers. I'd be more interested if they were getting EVPs of some sort of string of sentences together of what this entity is referring to. It's what people perceive as effective. What is communication? What do they see as intelligent? And like I said, it could it could well be, but all the evidence I come across, which is EVP related, you might get some very, very clear EVPs. But they're generally one or two words at that.
That's where I'm at. If it's just one or two words, to me, it's more of the things. Well, I see Bunny in the clouds too, and I saw a face in the smoke, and of course you did. It's what your mind wants to perceive. So, one word responses to me isn't that big of a deal because your mind. I asked a question, and if I ask a living person a question, I hope that I get the answer that I want. So, and that person there has the ability to think and not give the answer I want. So, with this, you're assuming into a lot of things, and you're perceiving a lot of things, and I think a lot of these things are our preconceived notions, ideas of, and the response we get are the response we want to get, the response that we're hoping to get. We hear what we want to hear.
Exactly. And that's how that's my feelings on it. And this is why I feel that rather than just kind of willing to accept that's what it is, kind of I'd like to kind of get people to kind of think more about what else it could be and kind of investigate that more rather than just kind of already go with that, conclusion that that's what it is. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because
my Ghost Meter Pro went beep beep. It's a ghost because it's a Ghost Meter Pro, so it has to be a ghost because it says Ghost Meter Pro right on it.
Exactly. I could tomorrow go and just develop any type of bit of equipment to make any kind of sound, or move in any type of way, set it on the market, as a ghost hunting tool, that this and so is going to happen when a spirit presents itself within your environment, and people will buy it, and it's because I don't think that people need to kind of look up more about the technology that they're using, how it works, and what things affect them, so they can kind of at least have a sort of idea of other things that are going to manipulate that device, rather than just think that if something's manipulating it, then that's what it is. It's about understanding that equipment, and I myself for many years, kind of went with the crowd as well, and said, do you know what, they're saying that's what it is, I'm going to say that's what it is. It's only because over time I've got to the point where I've gone, do you know what, I don't think that's what it is. I've questioned everything, and I think that's what I've needed to do in order to progress. And obviously, being on another show of yours about a month ago, we never got to the point, because what I've been fortunate enough to do over in the UK is attend. Is be invited as a guest speaker a couple of the local conventions. So one of them being Sage Paracon 2016, which obviously I think, Kerry, you had the was it MJ?
We did. We had MJ. I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
Graham. We are running out of time rapidly now.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry to cut you off, but we are running out of time. So thank you so much for coming on, Graham. I'm sure we'll have you back on another time because, you're fascinating to me. Thank you so much for the chat room. That has been going absolutely on fire, and they've even been quoting Einstein. Guys, thank you, Jay.
Thank you all for everything.
I wouldn't say that.
Stay and listen to Chris and Wayne's show. They're absolutely awesome, you guys.
Cheers, thanks.
And on that note, thanks for joining us, and good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.